To the moon, one human family. To Mars, one human family. Asteroids, one human family. Jupiter, one human family. Saturn's rings, one human family. Uranus, one human family. Neptune, one human family. Kuiper Belt, one human family. Pluto, one human family. Planet 9, one human family. Oort Cloud, one human family. Back to Earth, 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 one human family. Fantastic Friday, one human family. Ladies and gentlemen, pow, 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 Mike Mongo, cha, 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 pow, pow, pow. Greetings and salutations. It is Fantastic Friday. Greetings and salutations. It's Fantastic Friday. You know what? I love talking to voices, and our guest today speaks in voices. He didn't share a lot of them with us because he's in professional mode. It is Fantastic Friday. I hope you're feeling fantastic. I'm feeling fantastic for you. You know what? This message was up on the board the other day, and it was so nice that I left it up. We put it up there, and I got to add something to it right now. I noticed that when I did this message, you are beautiful, that I didn't put something that I really love a lot, and that is orange. Orange is the message. Let's see where it goes. We need orange everywhere. You know, orange is supposed to be a color that makes us hungry. Isn't that interesting? So I don't know if that's true or not, but it makes me feel good. And you can really see it better when you add some orange. And it's such an important message that I decided to keep it up and for myself, and now for you also. Boom. You are beautiful. And now with orange, you're even more beautiful. Pow, pow, pow on Fantastic Friday. Important to remember, because we're not going to get anywhere unless we feel good about ourselves. That's the truth. And we can't be great on a team helping others unless we feel good about ourselves. And we want the people on our team to feel good about themselves. And you're part of the team. So you get to feel good about yourself. Oh, hi. Did I see you there? Did I miss you? I see you now. How you feeling today? Are you feeling, dare I say, fantastic? Because it's Friday? Cool. Summer's here and the time is right for dancing in the streets. Turn the lights on. Pow, pow, pow. You know what? We're going to talk about something really cool today. I mean, I think it's cool because, yeah, I haven't spoke with you about it before. I'm very excited about it. Dare I say, nervous? Remember how the other day when I talked about how being excited, and feeling nervous, I was actually right here in this very spot. Feeling excited and feeling nervous are very similar. They're like the same feeling. It's how we feel about the feeling. And so I'm nervous and I'm excited. And I'm nervous and I'm excited. It's kind of the same thing. It's how I feel about that feeling. I can either feel nervous, which is a little bit fearful, or I can feel excited, which is kind of happy and thrilled. And I feel excited right now, getting to have this conversation with you. I've been looking forward for this for 2 days. Pow, pow, pow. Oh my Google. Mike Mongo's Astronaut Adventures. My name is Mike Mongo, and I'm an astronaut teacher, which means you're an astronaut student. You're here today to learn how to live, work, and play in space. That's why you are here. That's why you chose to be here. That's how smart you are. That's how good you are. You are solid like a star. You have the mass of a star when it comes to your heart. You're amazing. Takes one to know one. I see you amazing. And you are, yes, indeed, beautiful. And that's important because of this one thing that I'm going to talk about today. What? Oh my gosh, here we go. I got to go to another space. Haven't stood over here to talk to you before. We're going to talk about hardships. A hardship is a difficulty that we face. Sometimes we face difficulties that seem unfair. Sometimes life is hard and we face hardships. And there's a thing to understand that's really important, and there's ways to get through hardships. Knowing that this moment, however difficult or however hard it is, will pass. This too shall pass. Realizing that, understanding that, and owning that is essential, meaning it is crucial, it is critical, it is massively important. This too shall pass. We all face hardships. Are you facing a hardship right now? Is there some hardship you're facing? For some people, math is a hardship. For some people, reading is a hardship. For some people, getting food is a hardship. I hope you have enough food. When we have things in our life like water, food, medicine, clothing, shelter, like I've got Spaceship Studio, this is a fantastic place, but I didn't come this way. Like I wasn't born with this. Like I'm 55 and I got here through work and effort and people supporting me, people helping me, people occasionally going to my website, subscribing and buying coffee. That helps. That has helped me along the way. All the grown-ups who have gone onto the website and pressed buy Micah coffee, that helped us, that's helped this message take place. It's the simplest thing in the entire world, but it is true. I couldn't have done it without you. And that is critically important. So all of these things help us get through hardships. And one of the most important things is the one I just said. It's the people who support us. Support means to lend help, lend energy. It is to strengthen. Like, look at this. On my lights, there are these this is the light box on top of the light, and it diffuses the light. So you see how the light diffuses? Well, there are these magnetic poles, and they snap, and then it comes undone. When they're in place, it supports the box to stay open. It's very light, flexible, and easy to move around. This is an LED light, so it's not even hot at all. And this offers support. So we can be that for friends. And some people are like that for us. See how strong it is? And see what happens with one, it's not as strong. When it comes together, with two, it's not as strong. But when it comes together and works together to support one another, it's very strong. It's amazing. And that's how that works. It's funny, magnetism is like friendship. So these are little magnets, little Acadian magnets. And they come together and they support one another, and then it gets strong. And that's how friendship and allies and supporters, that's how that works. We find these people in our life and they help us. And that's part of it. The other part is the perspective, and that is a view, an outlook, knowing that it gets better. Whatever you're going through, whatever hardship you're facing, it could be a lot of hardships. Some people don't just face one hardship. Hardships aren't, there's no plan here. This is life. This is not a test. You're going through it, you get to experience it. You never know what happens. There's a saying that I love sharing. We can never prepare to be surprised. That means no matter how bad it gets, you never know when it's going to work out. And that to me is the most amazing thing about life. No matter how bad it gets, no matter how it looks like it's not going to work out, it always works out. And you remember, I've got this saying that's really important that I've shared a number of times. This is it. This is the most important thing that I know. This is what I call my rock. You know how much I love writing. Oh, you're way over there. Here, let me move you into the picture over here. Everything Everything. Got it? Everything. Always. Super important. Works. Out. Oops. No runs, no drips, no errors. Out. Period, because it is a statement. Everything always works out. Mike, how can everything always work out? Sometimes it doesn't work out. Oh, really? Oh, really? Oh, really? Because that's not how I see it. Wait a minute. Like, you know for a fact that in the past, I've told you about stuff that happened to me that was hard, that was difficult. My mom died a couple years ago. Doesn't sound like it worked out. Aha. Remember? Everything isn't as it seems. That's the thing, is that we got born into this video game we call life. It's already in play. It was happening before we got here. That's really important to remember. When I was you, I did not realize that the whole reality, everything, was already happening before I got here. It always seemed like it started when I got here. And in a way, that's true. It started for you, it started for me when we got here. But this whole game, this whole life, reality, everything, has been in motion, and the game has already been in play before we got here. So it's like dropping into a video game that's already in play. Like, you ever play, like, there's video games where you go and play with other people. You know what I mean, like Fortnite, for instance. And people are already playing when you get there. That's life. That is life. And so when we get here, we develop skills. We learn how to speak. We learn how to communicate. We learn the alphabet. We learn math. We learn to be good at what we love doing. We find friends. We create allies. Some people become obstacles for us to achieve our goal. And that is the point of this conversation today. Is that the people and the things in our life that happen that are hardships. Like, I've had to deal with bullies when I was growing up. I really did. I had to deal with bullies in a major way. I wasn't always 6'5". My voice was not always this deep. My voice was not always this deep. My voice was really high before. Like, I think I had more like a kid's voice before. And that was fine. It was okay. There was nothing wrong with that. I used to talk really high, and it was awesome. And then one day my voice started to crack. It started to change, started to sound more like this. I was like, what's happening to my voice? It sounds different. And then all of a sudden I started to talk more like this. And then I got older and I started to talk like this. What? I used to think about how Darth Vader sounds in Star Wars. Don't underestimate the dark side of the Force. So, I'm more of a Luke Skywalker guy, in case you haven't noticed. However, I've run into some Darth Vader figures in my life, and I call them bullies, okay? And now, being 6'5" and a full grown up, I get to deal with bullies on a whole different level. I make sure that people are respectful with one another. And when I find somebody who's bullying another person, I engage with them as a 55-year-old, 6'5" grown-up person who has been through the military and is not afraid of much. And I know for sure that everything always works out. So I'm not worried about anything, really. Even dying, I'm not worried about that. Holy smokes, I got love in my heart. Love lasts forever. It lasts beyond me. Like, that's the cool thing about love. That's why it's important when people love you. That's why it's important when you tell people that you love them. Because it makes more love grow. And that is how I started to realize that there's something bigger going on than me. Like, I didn't make this game. I got born into it, this game of life. And it made it a lot more fun to play. And it made me not worry about failing. so much. It made me really take it easy. Like, oh wow, okay, so this is a game and it's a lot of fun, and the part of the game, like telling people we love them, doing loveful things, having compassion, helping others. Remember this, what we're supposed to, the utility that I gave you to put in your head. How am I helping? Not everybody feels that way. Some people are thinking, how can I hurt? How can I stop? How can I hurt them? How can I stop them? And usually, almost always, it is because they hurt. Maybe somebody hurt them. And that's not your fault. That's not my fault. Just because somebody hurts somebody doesn't mean that it gives them a right to hurt us. So, the reason I'm telling you all these details and all this stuff is to keep in mind that everything always works out. And even if you face hardship and you face struggle and there's people that are being obstacles for you, sometimes people seem like they're being obstacles, but they're actually being helpful. Like if I wanted to play a video game and I needed to do homework and my parents or whoever, my grandparents or whoever's watching over me is saying, no, you have to do your homework. You get to do your homework before you play video games. You're like, oh, you're being an obstacle to my happiness. Well, I said that all really fast. Like what happens if there's something that you want to do, but there's something that as a student, you need to do, like maybe you need to clean your room, or maybe you need to do dishes, or maybe you need to pick up, or maybe you need to put your laundry in the laundry machine, or maybe you need to take out the trash. Simple things. Sometimes people have to do. Sometimes if you live on a farm, you get to go out. Sometimes you get to go outside and do chores outside. Sometimes you have to take care of the animals. One of my sons, Ravon, when he was it was important that he went outside and took care of the goats in Jamaica. I used to watch him at 5 o'clock in the morning, 6 o'clock in the morning, 6 o'clock in the morning, be outside rounding up the goats and putting them on lines, on ropes, and then carrying them up and moving them over to where the grass was so that they had food. As an 8-year-old, he did that, okay? So those people, his parents who were having him do that were not being obstacles to his success. They were showing him how to have more character, how to develop skills to be successful as a grown-up. And now he's 22 and he's fantastic. That's not an obstacle. They're not being obstacles. Actual obstacles I'm talking about are people who are bullies. Bullies are obstacles. Bullies are obstacles. Someone being mean for whatever reason. Whatever reason they're being mean is usually not on you or me. It's usually on them. They don't feel good about themselves. And you and me have talked about how to feel better about ourselves. And maybe they haven't got somebody supporting them. Remember, allies and friends, all these things to remember. So, my friend Ron Sparkman talked about this today with me. And I have it right here. I want you to see it. Let's get this going on here. Paka paka. All right. We are here today with one of my favorite people. It's Ron Sparkman. Ron Sparkman, how are you today?
I'm doing great, man. It's Friday. It's been a crazy week, and I'm looking forward to talking to you about all the stuff and things, man.
All right. So let me tell you why you're one of my favorite people, Ron. Because you and I just recently became friends, but a whole bunch of my friends have been talking about you to me for a long time now, really.
Well, I'm glad to hear that. It's always good to hear. Hopefully, mostly good things.
They were all good things. One of our friends is Cyan Proctor, Dr. Proctor, and she was always like, she would always say to me, "You don't know Ron Sparkman? You two would get along really well."
I'm glad to hear that, and I love Sai. She's great. I've been able to do quite a few things with her in recent weeks. Like she comes on our Drinks with Explore Mars event that we do, and she's just really, really awesome. And it was great to be able to talk to her and the rest of the team from the Sensoria group that just did the High Seas mission not too long ago, and talk to them about that incredible all-woman mission that they did. And Sai's just always got something fascinating and intriguing to talk about. So I'm glad that she was talking good about me.
All right, so I'm gonna have to ask you to slow down. Oh my gosh, you think a lot faster than so many people I know.
This is me slowed down, which is pretty funny.
And I think that's right. I have seen you so many times now with all the different shows and podcasts that you do, and you're one of the people that thinks really fast.
Yeah.
But does it feel different to think fast?
It's a funny thing because So I don't hear it when I normally speak, but if and when I listen to myself, say I'm editing a podcast or I'm watching a show and just trying to, make some tweaks and stuff, that's when I hear it. But to me, it seems to me like I'm speaking at the same speed as everybody else until I hear myself recording. And a lot of people don't like to hear themselves recorded, and, because they sound different. But even as a DJ, it was something that always kind of like, how am I a DJ? I can't stand my voice.
You used to think that?
Oh, absolutely, for sure. Even with, it was a job that I had for 2 decades. It was always strange to me to hear my own voice. And I just heard all these other people with like these great, really deep voices, and they just had something to them. And I was like, man, I'm never going to sound like that. So one of the guys that was one of my main inspirations, one of my main mentors, was like, stop trying to sound like, everybody else, Howard Stern, all these major DJs that are out there, across DC and stuff, like all these people that are out there that are like the big names that you hear about don't sound like everybody else. Just be a voice, and it's okay to be that voice that people more recognize. Be a personality, not a voice.
So be your own voice.
Yeah, be your own voice.
You are your own voice. I don't know anybody that sounds like Ron Sparkman.
Well, I'm glad to hear that. I've heard I still have the radio voice, but most people don't say I sound like anybody, but they just say, oh, you sound like a DJ. You sound like you've been on the radio.
When I hear your voice, I know it's you.
Yeah, well, that's good.
Do you remember the first time when you were a kid and you were recording and you heard your voice for the first time?
Oh, so when I was a kid, it was hard to really be able to record yourself. So, the 80s and 90s, I mean, I was talking to somebody about this the other day. It wasn't that you could just download a song or stream it as soon as you heard it. I remember when Kiss from a Rose from Seal came out, and I stayed up all night listening to the radio just to be able to put it on a cassette tape. So many of you probably don't know what a cassette tape is either, but that's what I had to do. So I was actually a little older before I really first heard myself. I recorded something like a podcast for iTunes, maybe, I don't know, 10, 15 years ago. And I really kind of heard myself for the first time, especially after developing my voice and my cadence and all that. And I was done. Nope, that sounds terrible to me.
When I recorded, I remember the first time I heard my voice. I remember the very first time, and I'm older than you. I'm 55. Yeah. And when I was growing up, we had a thing called a cassette recorder too, but I think it was different than the one you had. And it was a big block. It was like this big, and it had big fat buttons. Like my whole finger would push the whole button down.
Yep.
And we would slide the cassette in and then lock it shut, and then press 2 buttons to make it record.
Yep, that's exactly what I did.
and so then we would, oh, you did the same thing?
Absolutely. Well, one was play, and then it was like play and record at the same time. So that way it would start playing and then recording over whatever you had. So that way, I think it was a fail safe. So that way, if you just hit record, you couldn't hit record over something you've already
had
recorded.
Buttons.
Yeah.
And it was really hard to push down. It was clunky.
Yep. And I wondered if they did that on purpose, so that way you wouldn't accidentally record over stuff. But I don't know. I'm not sure. I never looked into that.
And so when I heard my voice for the first time, I didn't think I sounded like me at all.
Yeah.
Because inside my head, we have how we sound it to ourselves and then how we sound on our voice. And I bet students today get to hear their own voice a lot more because of video, because of our phones, because I actually remember when we very first got answering machines. They were machines that answered the telephone, and the telephones were all connected by wires. There was no phones like this. They're all wired.
Mm-hmm.
I'm glad to have been through these transitions of technology. It's good to see all of these.
We've seen so much. Yeah.
I mean, it works for space too, because when I was growing up, there was only one spaceship company. It was NASA, and now there's so many spaceship companies.
That's what I mean. I'm in Colorado, and there's so many amazing companies that are here. Lockheed Martin Space here is building the Orion capsule that's going to eventually take astronauts to the moon and onto Mars. Sierra Nevada is building the Dream Chaser here, which is
I love the Dream Chaser.
Oh, me too. Like, that's a story I want to tell. And at the Space Foundation Discovery Center, where I'm the chief curiosity correspondent, we have one that's an exhibit. It's a small one. It's maybe, I don't know, 1/16 the size, something like that.
A small Dream Chaser?
The Dream Chaser, yeah. And it goes to all the different conferences, but whenever it's not at a conference, it hangs from our ceiling. And it's always cool to just walk underneath that and look up and be like, that's gonna fly someday from right here in Colorado.
That's at the Space Frontier Foundation?
No, that's a different organization. It's Space Foundation.
At the Space Foundation, at the
Yeah, the
Space
Space
Foundation.
Foundation.
And you are Chief Discovery Officer at the Space Foundation?
Chief Curiosity Correspondent.
Chief Curiosity Correspondent. Are you curious?
I'm very curious. So this is, the title is one that I love. And for the kids that may be listening that may be really excited about nature and science, there's a wonderful science communicator named Emily Grassley. And she started out at a museum, and she started out as a curator. She was in the back kind of working on the collections. And she started a YouTube series, and it really took off. And now she works at the Field Museum in Chicago. And she just had a new TV show just come out on PBS just a few days ago. And she gets to work with my all-time favorite dinosaur, which is Sue. So when I was younger, I wanted to be a paleontologist. So she's kind of got my dream job if I would have went into the nature side of things. And so whenever I was talking to the folks that I work with now at the Space Foundation, she was brought up to me and what she does and like in the title. And they said, you know what, we need like a space version of that. Maybe we can do something really cool. You love all aspects of space. And I can come in and kind of start talking about that, everything from astronomy to rocket launches. And here I am. I get to be, as far as I know, I'm only the second Chief Curiosity Correspondent, but Emily is the main one.
Chief Curiosity Correspondent.
Pretty cool title.
Well, it's very inspiring because it leads me to imagine what other jobs are possible. I got one just by talking with you, and I never thought of it before because I have thought about. I know a lot of students who want to be paleontologists as well to study dinosaur and dinosaur remains. And so one of the things that I have always thought about is a space paleontologist. And so
astropaleontologist. I think that's one of the coolest ones ever. I've said, if we go to Mars, if Perseverance.
That's what I was just thinking.
Yeah, if Perseverance goes to Mars and finds anything there, if we find extinct life, then we can take people that are astrobiologists and say, you know, some of you can go be astropaleontologists.
What if we found old dinosaurs bones on Mars? What if we found Martian dinosaur bones?
We have no idea what we're going to find there yet. And that's what's so exciting about it. That's one of the reasons it's so exciting, because either it or Venus are the only two places that we know of currently in our solar system that were at least a planet. You know, obviously we can start talking about the moons and what they might be out there, and that's some of my favorite stuff to talk about. But you know, Mars has been around long enough, and at one point we're pretty sure most recent studies have said it had water everywhere, and we've seen pictures of what it looked like when it had water on it. Imagine what was there, what was swimming there 4 billion years ago, 3 billion years ago, before it lost its atmosphere.
I want you to know that I am not interested in going to Mars at all, but the idea of looking for dinosaur remains on Mars actually makes me really excited.
See? What can we find there? We don't know, and we might find microbial life, you know, those tiny organisms.
I'm not interested in Martian microbes.
I am because
what if they got inside us?
Well, there's that. So there is the scary part of what if we find, like, you know, a plague on Mars. You know, that's some really hardcore sci-fi stuff. But if we look at the other side of it, I think the exciting thing is you know, what if we get to finally answer that question that we're not alone? And what if it's entirely different than us? What if it's a second Genesis, another version of life that's nothing at all like what we are, and it's right on the very next planet next to us? What does that mean for other sorts of life throughout the galaxy, throughout the rest of the universe, the trillions of galaxies with hundreds of billions to trillions of stars? Can you imagine? The possibilities are endless, and I think that's why space is so amazing. Every morning we get to wake up and hear new incredible news, and you can never get bored of it. If you get bored of space, you're not looking hard enough.
You are definitely a chief curiosity correspondent.
I think so, man. I'm glad I finally found a title that fit me pretty well.
So you're chief curiosity correspondent at the first company. What company is that?
That's Space Foundation, and I do that specifically for the Space Foundation Discovery Center, which is, oh, it's incredible. We get to work with, you know, upwards of 100 plus students a day. They come through and we do education programs. We have like artifacts everywhere. So you get to see, if you've never heard of Space Lab, It was basically in the trunk of the space shuttle, and that's where they did all their missions. You were just talking about Mae Jemison a little bit ago, and
Me and
whenever
you,
we were
before we
messaging,
started, we were talking about Mae Jemison.
yeah, before this, we were talking about Mae Jemison, and we all love Mae. She was the first African American woman in space. And so whenever you come into the Space Foundation Discovery Center, you walk up, and it's that picture where you saw of her floating. We have that on a glass pane in Space Lab. So if you've ever seen Mae Jemison, that one picture where she's in space and she's doing work, that's what we have there. And that's these are the one. This is the one that they practice in. And so that's kind of our centerpiece of the Discovery Center.
How has the pandemic and quarantine changed all of that?
I mean, it changed everything. We became the Digital Space Foundation. And so it's been a whole lot of online. So we're consistently coming out with new things. We have this really great platform with our Space Foundation formal education team called Audience with an Astronaut. And what we do is we have, it's a local astronaut. His name's Dwayne Digger Carey. And we also have others like Paul Lockhart works with us. And we've had a few others in the past. And it's just a conversation where he talks with with the educators or possibly me if they need to fill in for someone, and we discuss his life and all the things that he went through and what he's done and how he became an astronaut. And Dwayne has a really incredible story because he didn't grow up like what a lot of people would expect. He grew up without a dad around, and his mom had to work a lot, and his stepdad worked a lot, and he wasn't really good at science when he was in school. And it took time for Dwayne to figure everything out. And it's a really inspiring story to hear that it wasn't all perfect for him, and it wasn't that for most astronauts, and most people don't know that there was a lot of struggle to become the first astronaut in all the different backgrounds and fields. And it's really kind of exciting to hear those stories and realize that we put them up on a pedestal, and rightly so, but they're also very human, and they've gone through so many challenges. And it's so great to hear those kinds of stories, and kids are always inspired like that. Like, well, I'm not that good at math right now, but that doesn't mean you can't be. And that's something he talks about, that it took him time to figure out what it was. Scott Kelly talked about the difficulties that he had in math class, and that his twin brother, Mark Kelly, told him, it's like, listen, you can do this. You just have to make the choice to stay home and really study. And the first time he got 100% on a test, that's what changed and moved him into the direction of becoming a really incredible astronaut. And that's what inspired me to keep going once I had had some difficulties in math in college myself.
Yeah, when I was growing up, I didn't have it easy. And I actually don't know a lot of, now that I'm a grown up, now that I'm a full grown up, I don't know a lot of people that really did have it easy. I talk with a lot of people that had it really difficult. So now that I'm a grown up, I realize that most people have it difficult and some people have it easy. And I'm not even mad at the people who have it easy, because if I had a choice when I was growing up, I would have gone with easy. Now that I'm a grown up, I realize that having gone through hard makes it easier for me as a grown-up. So I think that if we start off and we have it easy, it's going to be harder later. And if we start off and we have it difficult, it becomes easier later.
It does. There's a really great phrase that I heard from Tony Robbins not too long ago, where he said, if we have to blame people for the bad things that happened, then we also have to blame them for the good things. With all the tough things that I went through with bullying and other things when I was growing up, if I hadn't been through those challenges, and if I didn't have the people around me, like my martial arts teachers, like Ernie Boggs and Craig Oxley and Warren Owsley, and these guys that were hard on me, but were also like my family, Ben Brotherton and Scott Dixon and all these people that I grew up with, if it wasn't for them, I wouldn't be here. And if it wasn't for them, I wouldn't have gotten into DJing, and I wouldn't have met one of my best friends, who's like my big brother, Brian Parker, who we call Big Bopper. He's about 6'4", like 350, 400 pounds, just this big booming voice, and the nicest guy in the world. And he taught me the kind of person that I wanted to be. And if it wouldn't have been for him teaching me what my voice was after being bullied, and being able to then stand in front of a microphone and talk to a group of people and make them laugh for the first time and play music that they loved, I don't know how I would have been able to find my voice without that, especially when I'd been told that for so long that I didn't have one, and that what I said didn't matter. And if it wasn't, all those things were the things that put me on a path to where I am now. I was terrified. I had stage fright. I don't know that I would be able to do what I get to do now as a science communicator if it wasn't for saying, now I'm not saying that this is something I wish on anyone. I'm just saying this is part of the story for me, is that if I wouldn't have been bullied, I wouldn't have quit high school. I wouldn't have given up on my dream of being a paleontologist. and then I wouldn't have become a DJ. And that's something that I really loved for the majority of my life. I found that passion, and that led me
You might
now.
not have become a chief curiosity correspondent.
Exactly right. I had to find, I developed so many skills being in a DJ booth that I just would have never thought. And there was the two things that came with that. One was being a communicator, being able to talk to people and have conversations, and talk to people about, oh, hey, like buy drinks, do this, do that. But then another thing that I learned was social media skills. If you are a DJ, that's one of the best ways to get out what you do. And now as a space social media consultant and a space personality and science communicator, those skill sets very easily switched over to this and said, there is something that I can use here. And it was something that while I'm still pursuing eventually I want to get a PhD in astrophysics, I found out that the skill sets I had could translate to this. And this was something that I could do now, and I could be an important part of, talking to people and engaging people in these things that I love. And I can do it as I'm taking the other journey to eventually say, hey, I'm Dr. Sparkman.
When I work with young students and they explain to me that they want to be an astronaut or work in space and science or work in space and industry or start their own space company, I get to explain to them, what skills are you bringing to those jobs or to those positions? And that opens another conversation. So in this case, the skills that you brought from starting to be a DJ were communication skills.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that's so what I did when I fell in love with space 6 years ago. I couldn't tell you the order of the planets. Not really. Like I could have if I sat and thought about it instead of knowing all of them. And now once I found all that, once I watched Cosmos and saw that first 15 minutes of that show and realized what all was out there, I knew that's what I wanted to do forever and had no idea what it was going to look like. So when I started my business Stardom as a way to communicate science, the only thing it was just a single web page that just said, I'm confused, and here's the things that I started looking at and reading. Here's the TV shows I watched. Here's the museums, Discovery Center type places that I went to. Here's different podcasts that you can listen to, books you can read or listen to on Audible. And it started from there, and there's become this.
That's how you started?
That's how I started. I just started with a single web page saying, I don't know what this is going to be. And it had a totally different name. And then from that, it just built out to doing interviews and having writers that talk about all kinds of different things and cover rocket launches. This was just something that I made and said, I don't know what this is going to be. And then
now you work with all kinds of different companies. So you started maybe, you say 6 years ago?
Mm-hmm.
Wow, because you're now one of the most famous people I know in space and science communications. I think everybody I ever talk with knows you.
I hear that a lot. It's an amazing thing to say that not only do they know me, but I get to say that I know them. With all the people that I get to sit and have discussions with, quite often on the shows that I have, the majority of the people I talk to are friends of mine. First I find out about them, and then we start to talk about things, and there's always that connection. In the space community is, I think it was Dr. Tanya Harrison that said it not too long ago on Twitter. She was talking about the space family. There is something that once you become sort of this space evangelist, you hear it in every other person that you talk to in the space industry. It doesn't really matter their age. Talking to, say, Dr. Paul Hertz is the head of astrophysics at NASA, and to talk to him about the James Webb Space Telescope or the Hubble Telescope, he sounds like he's 12 years old. He's just so, he's just like, we're going to be able to, we do this and we do that. And this is the guy that gets to talk about all this all the time. You talk to Dr. Jim Green, who's NASA's chief scientist, and he's so excited to talk about the fact that we may find life on Mars with perseverance. Or we see these plumes coming out of the moons of like a Jovian or Saturnian moon, where these plumes are coming out, and we might be able to go there and find life.
It's so cool how there's plumes of water coming out of moons around planets in our solar system. They're just out into space.
Yeah, and we can fly through those and possibly find the things that would say there might be life here or there is life here. And that's just in our cosmic backyard.
Thinking about the solar system locally as comparison to the universe is kind of like thinking about when you started 6 years ago and you really didn't know what you were going to do or how you were going to do it, and you just took one foot forward at a time.
That's all you can do.
And now you are the Chief Curiosity Correspondent at the Space Foundation Discovery Center.
That's correct.
And then what? And then you also work with Explore Mars.
I sure do. So at Explore Mars, I'm the communications and social media manager. And but there's the really fun thing about it is that Explore Mars is sort of a smaller organization. So we only have a small group of people that really make those decisions, and everyone there is always so open to ideas. Is that even as, you know, if I say only a communications and social media manager, those things are very important. But on every phone call I'm on, it's me, the technical director, the CEO, the president and the CEO, and sometimes our chief financial officer. And a lot of those decisions are made by those people. We also have a board of directors that make a big overarching ones with our mission and those plans. And there's some cool changes that we have coming up in the near future for people to pay attention to that we're really excited about. But yeah, it's a small group of us. So if I talk about
work a lot.
I work a lot. I work all the time. But it's one of those things that people say, if you love what you do, you don't work. You'll never work a day in your life.
I say if you love what you do, you'll never work harder at anything, anytime, ever.
That's true. That's true too.
Okay, well, I appreciate you're a very exciting person. You lead a very exciting life, and that's very inspiring. And I really appreciate you being here with us today.
Oh, I was glad to talk to everybody. And if anybody has any questions, feel free to let me know. And then Mike, you can get back with me, and we can answer them and send out some emails to people if they have any questions.
I hope you'll come on our show again.
Absolutely, I would be glad to.
Okay, thanks for your time today.
Bye. Bye.
Probably good work.
I'll try.
And that's my friend Ron Sparkman. Ron can talk. Ron's he's a he's a professional DJ. So he became a science communicator because he's so good at speaking. He knows how to speak really well. And so that's the skill that he has brought to space and science. So Ron Sparkman also does something, and the reason I had him on today is because Ron Sparkman had to face bullying when he was growing up. He got to face that. And I say got to because as he explained, it led him in a whole life path. After he got through it, it led him to a whole life path. Him getting through it actually led him to the place he is today. One of the most famous people to speak with other space professionals. He opens up doors for people like you. And he brings in new information, like the way he talks about the Milky Way and the cosmic backyard, as he called it. And if it wasn't for the hardship that he had been through, he wouldn't be where he is today. He tells that story really well. It's part of who he is. I tell a story very much like his. If it wasn't for the hardship that I went through when I was you, I wouldn't be who I am today. And at times, it didn't feel like I was going to make it. It did not. However, I always looked for people who could support me. And that means lift me up, give me strength. Not just give me money, not just buy me a coffee, but people who supported me emotionally, who let me know that I had worth and value and that I was meant to be here and that I had bigger things in my future. No matter how hard the situation I was going through. Ron went through some real tough situations when he was growing up. He didn't make it through high school, and now he wants to get a PhD in astrophysics. See, life changes, but you got to stick with it. And one of the things that helped me stick with it is remembering everything always works out, even if it doesn't look like it. Even despite it looking like it not working out, it does work out. So we're right at the end of the show, but there's somebody I got to give a shout out to. I call him Rover. I think his name is Chester, though. Let's see if I can find him. Let's see, Rover. Chester. And he's in the United Kingdom. He messaged me this week. And you know what? He wants to be the first gamer in space, the first space gamer. And he's taking his GCSEs, which are the big test that he takes, I think around 8th or 9th grade, that decides what future he wants to go into, what career. And so he was asking me, what GCSE should I take if I want to become a space gamer? And we decided that computer science is the way to go. So I don't have his picture right now, but one day in the future, I got here. This is my friend. This is my friend Grover, Chester, and he's cool from Great Britain, from the United Kingdom. So that is our show for the day. This is the message. You go through what you're going through, and it's going to get you to where you want to go. You got it? You stick with it. And if you're having challenges or difficulties, reach out to people. And if that person isn't able to help you, then you reach out to another person. And if that person isn't able to help you, then you reach out to another person until you find the person that is there to support you in the way that you need to be supported. You have worth. You have value. You are beautiful. I am grateful to be able to be the one to share that with you right now. And I hope that you have people all day long who share that with you. And if you don't, I want you to carry this message forward. You're awesome. You're an excellent human being. You're going to make it through whatever challenge you face. I guarantee it. I give you my word. You have what it takes. And that is an awesome power. So that's it. That's our show for today. I'll see you on Monday. You have a great weekend. Got a frog in my throat. It's because I care. I love you. I really do. Keep up the good work. See you on Monday.